it just rubs me the wrong way. I can already tell that this is going to be the next thing Twitter and YouTube pretend to be upset about, like Goblin Slayer. Just wait a few episodes. You can see past that major flaw in his character. You're a piece of shit. Just kidding, but I don't think you're supposed to overlook his creepy tendencies or how manipulative the guy can be. And even draw out how much of a disgusting child he was to take care of in the light novel. Your mom recalls, when feeding this baby milk, it will lick. Come on, man. Despite me having every reason to hate this guy, I don't really. It makes sense. This guy isn't supposed to be your role model. He had no choice in being spit out into another world. And despite his shortcomings...
Oh, another L tree avatar.
I've never used the word earnestly before. He is earnestly trying his hardest to be a
That nigga about to kill me, bro.
Not to respect that.
Caught me off guard.
Each character has a similar weakness to them that's expanded upon or explained in some way that might not make you fall in love with them.
Bro, how that shit
helps you understand. And there are lovable characters first off, like Roxy, who's actually pretty normal. But here's the thing. The manga conveys none of this. Almost every comment online is talking about this character's down because of this. Oh, Rudy Groody and other days. It's impressive how at least 40 people are consistently coming back to the story to say that. And that's because the manga leaves
bro, this
out
nigga fucking me up, bro.
what takes Rudy 300 words to express in the light novel takes 2 pictures in the manga. So you lose a lot of characterization that's extremely valuable to a story that prides itself on the strength of its characters. What I found, however, is that the anime drops the manga on its ass. It slices through the boring text of the light novel and hoists the important stuff that the manga leaves out on its big, broad back. A beautiful hybrid of the two, just like a mixed baby. Everybody loves mixed babies. The characters are complex and really well written to not just be likable, but to be flawed. No one's perfect, and that's refreshing and cool. If the anime keeps going on the track it has been, I think you guys are going to think the exact same thing.
Okay, but where's the key at?
Watch the first 5 minutes of episode 1, dude. The show looks gorgeous, clean, fluid, expressive, cinematic, beautiful are all words I can use to describe the art. It'd be quicker to say the water actually looks like water. Anime has come such a long way. Images that I generated in my head of each scene while reading the novel for this video were literally brought to life in front of me. The show looks really good, and again, like a lot of the little actions the characters make are refreshingly fresh. There's also a subtle film grain thing going on. The start of the anime looks like the magic is genuinely gorgeous. It's goddamn clean as goddamn, which makes me excited to see how the fights are handled a little bit later, assuming the rest of the show looks as good as the first 2 episodes. Just like the art, this is some high quality stuff. Before we even talk about the music, I gotta mention the sound designers here. Let's just put it this way. The water actually sounds like water.
Bro, what the fuck?
If I had to talk about the music and not the water, I'd say that it bangs. Every emotional high point in the anime is reinforced by these beautiful violin-y sad songs. There's also happy violin-y songs. I love violins and pianos and stuff. It's coming from the guy who worked on the Land of the Lustrous soundtrack, so that's exciting. Loading this thing up. Yep, we're gonna rate it an 8 out of 10 on the Doug score. That's right, that's 8 out of 10 possible Dougs. Mushoku Tensei is an S-tier shonen that, if adapted correctly, is bound to be a hit. It's good for people that are interested in the recent isekai atmosphere, but want something a little more mature. The story keeps you at the edge of your seat, the characters are super well written, it's aesthetically pleasing. I think most of you would want to tune in this season, assuming the anime keeps adapting the novel faithfully. If they switch up later in the season, which is totally possible, half of you might not be that into it. Yeah, I think it's great if you've ever entertained the idea of being reborn as a baby with the knowledge you have now. It's excellent at portraying that side of things. It's also excellent at portraying a main character that's not only competent, but vulnerable. Like you, when we went to your VPN. See that? We're getting better at these. Last time we saw that I was playing Black Ops 2, which was already a fucking mistake, and some guy in chat started grabbing IPs, including mine at some point. One use of a VPN, such as Nord, is to prevent stuff like that, but another use can just be playing games with your friends. I have a friend in Canada who I was streaming with, and he couldn't connect to my game session because our NAT type he had the brilliant idea of actually using fucking Nord on stream to bypass his stupid internet restrictions and join our game. NAT type moderate! Oh, yeah, we can. My NAT type's moderate. Don't you want to use Nord so you can discuss deep philosophical concepts with the boys, such as everybody's got a leaky pee-pee. Everybody in the world has a leaky pee-pee. Nobody's as watertight, dude. That's the point of having one. Want to watch a show that's region locked? Nord. Your school doesn't allow you to surf X videos? Nord. Encrypting your internet use is just one of many uses of a VPN. So if you're interested, Nord provided me with a link that will get you a huge discount on a 2-year plan with an additional 1 month free. Grubhub delivers convenience items.
Grubhub delivers convenience items.
What job will Phil help you discover? Find out at ZipRecruiter.com.
Yeah, I almost got that nigga about 4 times. I'm trying to get to that bitch around. I got over there. I left. One time, after I got maxed like 16 times, I went to go to that. I don't know what you call them. Place where you like customize your shit, and they gave me the option to go over there. Oh yeah, I got it. You just go press Y. Yeah, but I didn't like walk around that bitch. Yeah. They said the next boss is the nigga with the arms. Yeah. And he found hard as hell. I remember like Caleb said, go talk to somebody in the hallway.
Oh yeah. Let me just walk straight through it.
Help my nigga.
Guys use the same spell I have. This is what it feels to be. I'm not gonna cap.
What, this nigga died already, bro? Oh, fuck this fucking bitch, bro.
Yeah, buddy, I killed one of you.
Oh, that nigga died. He said you died like 16 times. Go there. I don't know if I died.
That's a bomb.
Beat this bitch ass nigga this time. Man.
hesitates, leaving Farnese in a state of distress. To relieve her inner turmoil, Farnese sets the mansion ablaze and is later sent to a monastery to speak to God to temper her devilish tendencies. Farnese then assumes the role of the leader of the Holy Iron Chain Knights and takes pride in burning heretics. As it just so happens, Serpico's mother was also labeled a heretic, and because Serpico was her mother while she was at the stake, and to avoid suspicion that he was also a heretic, Farnese took the torch, handed it in Serpico's hand, and they lit his mother ablaze together. Sometime afterward, the Holy Iron Chain Knights are going to the Red Lake, where the eclipse occurred 1 year ago. Farnese, the leader of the Iron Chain Knights, talks about the fifth angel, the Hawk of Darkness, who will usher in an age of darkness. Berserk the Prototype is not part of the official canon, yet it does serve as a precursor to the Berserk epic. This standalone story was submitted by Kentaro Miura in college as a student in 1988. Though certain details were omitted for the canonical release, the core concepts are in line with what we see today. Now, this story takes place after the Band of the Hawk story arc, which I would assume is probably the Golden Age arc, but they don't provide clarification. And it would suggest that it would have taken place between chapters 94 and 95, probably somewhere in the Black Swordsman arc, prior to the Lost Children's chapters. Now, of course, it's not canon, so it doesn't actually exist, but based on all the evidence, it's kind of in that time range if it were to exist, if you know what I mean. And in a lot of ways, Berserk Prototype was Miura's rough draft for the inaugural arc of the series. And with that, guys, let's just have a small deviation from the story to explore Berserk the Prototype. A road is lined with impaled skeletons as far as the eye can see. That's a little much for scarecrows, says Guts. Pug, terrified of the sight, hides in Guts' satchel. A group of bandits terrorize a young girl down the road. One of them threatens to skewer her, but then an arrow impales his brain. Arrows impale the other two. As it turns out, it was Guts who killed them. The Black Swordsman looks to raid the carriage for food, but he then slices a fourth thug straight through the torso. The girl then promises food to the Black Swordsman if he gives her a ride. Pug then sends a satchel, charming the girl with his cute appearance. Due to his hunger pangs, Guts threatens to boil and eat the elf if he doesn't stop messing around. Frika, the girl, finds her uncle, as her parents and the other villagers celebrate her safe return. Frika's parents feed Guts, whilst telling him about the Fife Lord, Vlad Tepes. Over 10 years ago, Vlad Tepes took 500 enemy soldiers and impaled every last one of them, including women, children, and priests. Once wartime ceased, the Lord turned his malice towards his own people. Rumors have spread of him butchering young women. 4 women have been chosen to be his maidservants, but none of them have returned. Guts seems unconcerned, asking the mother for another drink. Other villagers enter the house, requesting Guts to kill the Lord for them. Guts laughs this off, calling the idea ludicrous. An old woman begs for him to avenge her granddaughter, but he quips with, "I've got nothing to do with just and generous chivalry. I could care less." He calls himself a knight? Wonders Frika. Puck proceeds to berate Guts for his crass behavior. Frika apologizes to Guts, claiming that she told everyone that he was a powerful knight. "I'm sorry, it's my fault." "I don't really care." Knowing she'll be taken next, Frika asks for one of Guts' possessions. He thusly hands over his eye patch. Puck berates Guts for his insensitive behavior. "My mother had her innards ripped out and eaten by them while she was still alive," says Guts. Killing them is
Bro, you down to that wolf, bro?
I've got no life to spare for other people. As Frika is taken away, Guts notices the crest on the carriage, and with this, the Lord heads on his side intention. Frika arrives at the Lord's castle. Inside, she's greeted by Vlad. The Lord inspects the girl's face with great intent. Frika notices that his hands are cold and that his flesh is rotting. He's not human. An arrow enters Vlad's right eye. "Wouldn't it be a good idea to skewer yourself now and then? I'd be happy to put an eye patch on ya." "Black Knight," says Frika. Vlad pulls out the arrow, along with his eyeball. Guts fires an arrow in his mouth, but the Lord chomps him down. Guts accidentally springs the trap door, as various spears fly towards him. Though Guts has been impaled multiple times, he seems unconcerned. He pulls out the spear, whips out his sword and says, "I'm gonna fix you up, dog of Moana. How do you know that name? The Lord of We who are not human, the most powerful god of the world, the name of the most ancient god of darkness, Moana." Vlad then transforms into a hawk-full apostle. Guts shows no fear, rushing in with a head of steam to confront the monster head-on. Vlad catches Guts in midair, congratulating the Black Knight for making it this far. Guts merely smiles. Didn't I say I was gonna mix you up? Guts yanks on a string with his mouth, revealing a cannon within his mechanical arm. He blasts the apostle head on, and this finishes it. Though his guts and entrails lie scattered on the floor, Vlad manages to express his disbelief in what just transpired. Who else but a human would hate you bastards this much? Vlad notices the brand of sacrifice on Guts' chest, just before Boulder crushes his head. Permanently. Fricka is overcome with fear when she stares at the Black Knight. Guts returns to Fricka, stating he killed the apostle for his own reasons, and not to save her. Puck then thinks about how sinister Guts looked when he fought Vlad. I'll give them as much flesh and blood as they want. While I'm at it, I'll jam some steel in their heads. And with that ends the dessert prototype. And now, we're back to the main story. Guts arrives in the tavern and bloodies up some coca thugs. He tells one of the men to tell his boss, i.e. the Snake Baron, the Black Swordsman has come. Puck, an elf who was accused by the thugs, becomes an ally to the brooding swordsman. After being tortured and imprisoned by the mayor of Coca, who plans to hand Guts over to the Snake Baron, Guts gets healed by Puck and subsequently escapes from prison. Guts uses his prosthetic arm, which also serves as a revolving crossbow. After Guts struggles a bit with the Snake Baron, he eventually takes control of the when he utters that he has no idea where the God Hand resides. Guts proceeds to abuse the snake-like apostle for his own amusement. After some disparaging words to Puck, Guts catches a ride with an old man and a young girl. Guts falls asleep and dreams of a labyrinth in which he's chased by Casca's deformed demon child. Guts shows them his brand of sacrifice mark on his neck and explains the evil spirits feed off of fear. The carriage stops and the girl gets out, only to be pierced by a sharp weapon. Guts then fights off a slew of possessed corpses. He then notices the girl's been possessed and kills the old man in the carriage. After taking care of business and surviving the night, Puck laments the death of the girl and the old man, while Guts laughs in a crazed manner. Guts arrives in a new land where heretics are getting their heads chopped off. After making his presence known to the Count, Guts is surrounded by ironclad warriors. However, they stand no chance against Guts' massive chunk of iron, otherwise known as the Dragon Slayer. Guts makes quick work of the towering man that is wielding a warhammer. It should be noted that Puck is meandering around Guts at this point as well. After escaping a smoke grenade, Guts ends up in the house of a mutilated man, Vargas, who claims the Count has cut off his body parts and ate them. Vargas then shows Guts a behelit that he stole from the Count. Apparently, the Count attained the behelit 7 years ago, resulting in a fascination with torture and eating people alive. Vargas, unfortunately, was forced to watch the Count eat his wife and sons. Guts explains that the behelit is a key that summons demons from another dimension, the 5 members of the God Hand. In the meantime, the Count places a demon inside Zondark, the man with the warhammer, and he thus uses his increased strength to smash through Vargas's house. Although putting up a better fight than last time, Guts easily dispatches Zondark. That is, until the parasitic Count reveals himself. As the house begins to collapse, Guts, Puck, and Vargas escape through a secret passage. Guts claims the behelit from Vargas, before parting ways with the deformed man. Immediately afterward, Vargas is caught by the parasitic Count, and is set to be beheaded. Puck urges Guts to save Vargas, but Guts displays no empathy. After the beheading, Guts sees the demon baby child once more, but this time with Vargas's face. Guts then vows he'll kill the Count for Vargas. The Count gives Puck as a gift to his daughter, Teresa, but bemoans the fact that she won't let him touch her. Guts enters the Count's castle and runs into Zondark once again. After regenerating several times, Guts cuts off the head of the parasitic creature and smashes it against a wall. Teresa tells Puck that pagans sacrificed her mother to their god, and ever since then, the Count has relentlessly punished heretics. Guts slices through more guards before confronting the Count, who has some surprises up his sleeve. The Count transforms into his final form, and Guts learns the seriousness of his situation. The Count bruises and batters Guts to the point that the Black Swordsman displays a look of unparalleled dread. The blows take their toll on Guts, leaving him unable to defend himself. Puck notices the Behelit and attempts to keep it from the Count. The Count chases him down until he is seen by Teresa, who instinctively screams in horror. Guts enters the fray again and eventually uses Teresa as a shield. After blasting the Count and chopping off his head, Guts begins to torture the demonic beast in front of Puck and Teresa. The Count screams, "I don't want to die!" And the Behelit activates, causing a spatial distortion that is oddly reminiscent of an M.C. Escher piece of work. It is then that Guts notices the presence of the God Hand. "Griffith!" The Count pleads with Void, whom he calls Archangel, to kill the Black Swordsman, but they refuse, stating, "His petty existence is beneath our notice." Guts attempts to attack his nemesis, Griffith, but the demon's mere presence causes him pain, as he is repelled backward. The God Hand then recount the events that led to the Count becoming an apostle. It turns out the Count's wife venerated to sexual practices, and when he saw this, he sacrificed his wife to the God Hand to become an apostle. Now, to achieve his burning desire, killing the Black Swordsman, he would have to sacrifice his daughter, Teresa. The God Hand show the Count what hell looks like, and tell him he has two paths: to be reborn as a demon, or be absorbed by demonkind. The Count is tormented by the decision, but is unable to respond. The dead soul of Vargas, as well as others, drag the Count to hell. The spirits go for Guts next, as he shoots his cannon toward Griffin. After the departure of the God Hand, Teresa sobs for a bit, but eventually blames Guts for her misfortunes, provoking her to yell, "I'll kill you!" Thus provoking Guts to have a look of absolute sorrow on his face, something that surprises Puck immensely, and also creates one of the greatest memes of all time. Because you had a bad day, take one down, say goodbye. Sometime after Guts saw the God Hand at the Count's castle, he saves a girl named Jill from being mutilated by some bandits. After a tree spirit scares the bandits, Guts has his turn, and despite some difficulties, he eventually takes down the evil spirits. Afterward, Jill sees Puck and begins to tremble, thinking he's an elf from the Misty Valley. Jill leads Guts and Puck to her village, where she gets abused by her drunken father. The village folks see Puck and grab their weapons with killer's intent. After Guts destroys a cart, the village folk back down, and Jill directs Guts to an abandoned window, where he will stay for the night. The next morning, Jill tells a cryptic story about elves killing livestock and carrying away children. Just then, the elves enter Jill's village, obliterating everything in sight. Upon seeing the pesky creatures, Guts uses his sword as a fly swatter. Guts then uses a small child as bait to lure the elves to a small barn, where he blasts them to smithereens with his cannon. Guts encounters the Queen Elf, who appears to be an apostle due to his bleeding brand mark. After missing her with his sword, Puck notices that he's not elf or set up all but children. The Queen Elf mysteriously Puck Peacath, the outcast, and begins her assault, until Jill calls her Rosine, and she mysteriously runs off. The burning elves turn back to children, and the townsfolk are enraged with Guts. Guts uses Jill as a hostage to escape the situation, and makes his way to the Misty Valley. He must rest up for the night, though, and when the sun goes down, he sees the demon child in the fire, and numerous blazing children walking toward him. Guts retches at the thought of killing children, and goes insane in the process of butchering them. After getting hurt and escaping with Jill, he acquires more info about Peacath. Turns out Peacath was a boy with pointy ears and a red nose, who was an outcast in his village. Apparently, he was healed by elves as a baby, and was permanently imprinted with their distinct physical characteristics. Jill remarks that Rosine once said, "I am just like the boy from the story, Peacath." Jill recounts recounts her history with Rosine, noting the red-colored stone, i.e. Bahalit, she carried around with her. One night, she said goodbye to Jill and disappeared into the Misty Valley, apparently sacrificing her parents to become an apostle. Rosine then comes to Jill and invites her to the Misty Valley. Guts lunges in with his sword and injures Rosine, causing her to become enraged. Rosine then flies away with Jill and entices her to become an elf. Guts enters the Misty Valley, only to find the bandits that harass Jill. But this time, they have transformed into demonic creatures. Guts staves off the insect-like apostles, but quickly realizes there are numerous more. Yet, despite the improbable odds,
I ain't gonna lie, bro. You about to die.
look in his eye and begins slaughtering every last one of them. As Guts continues fighting against a praying mantis and a stag beetle, the Holy Iron Chain Knights arrive in the village and find out that the Black Swordsman killed the children and has been the instigator of numerous grisly incidents. Guts' battle with the mantis and the beetle is not going well, as he's sustaining severe damage. In a last-ditch effort, however, he blasts the two with his cannon and strikes them down with his massive sword. Despite this victory, Guts' blood loss is reaching a critical level. Back to Rosine and Jill, they finally reach the Misty Valley.
Andy Justin tested positive. Let's do a Q test. Okay.
Whoa. What is that? I'm asking if you're a virgin. You bastard! Answer me.
Yes, I am!
Hellsing Ultimate takes place in 1940s London. It's about vampires, and coincidentally, people seem to be talking about vampires, so what crazy timing. Excuse me. I think I was talking about vampires. The Hellsing organization was founded to stop vampires from terrorizing society. After the current leader dies, his daughter takes the helm, who's obviously not completely white. Someone's going to have to explain it. Anyway, her uncle wants control of the company, so he tries to kill her, leading Sir Integra Fairbrook Winsgate Helsing to run to the basement where she meets a creepy man. Ew, you goddamn fucker! Turns out the creepy man is a vampire named Alucard. He's meant to serve whoever the head of the Hellsing organization is, which is currently Sir Integra Facebook Watergate scandal. That's level 1. Level 2 is in here. Time passes, and Integra gets super awesome cigar smoking faster. I love Integra. Anyway, this guy's like, vampires? How do you kill vampires? Poppycock! And she's like, Alucard pulls up and murders all the vampires in the most unnecessary way possible. He ends up letting a policewoman get captured because skipping some steps, she's now a vampire who's loyal to Alucard and the Hellsing organization. If you want something deep, that was a stupid thing to come to me with. Well, Hellsing is just wildly entertaining. At the beginning of the anime session, we're introduced to characters who we don't even know are super cool yet. Some shadow organization is Some shadow organization is messing things up. These are little seeds that are planted as you watch. Meanwhile, the second half is just, oh my god, can we get some more, get some more Jesus in here, please? No? What's Buddha doing? All the stuff that the first chunk of the show establishes blossoms into a gripping chaos that I couldn't stop staring at. Now, it's not all complex like Full Metal or anything like that. It was just cool to see this is cause, now this is effect. But real talk, the reason you and I are here is to see vampire guys with superpowers going at it. Which is good because every episode has at least one or two very well done fights back to back to back. Everything's over the top. The fights are super drawn out and the characters are like, oh, that's such power, but my power's better. No, your power is nothing compared to my power. What the fuck am I doing? You're super hyped up and you watch these characters that have a ton of hype already attached to them interact in creepy small town combinations. For example, the old man character has this cocky grin all the time and talks shit for like 2 episodes straight. But you don't actually see him do anything. My favorite character, who also has the best voice acting in the show,
Just want to torture you, kill you, maybe skull your corpse a couple of times, burn the house to the ground, go home and masturbate, okay?
goes on a murderous rampage controlling vampires for like half an hour. I now have an idea built up of how I think these two guys behave and how strong they are. I'm thinking in my head, when they meet up... That's about what I thought would happen. This type of build-up and these interactions made me so damn excited I would dead-ass yell at my TV, which I also owe to the speeches. Before the Scottish dude does anything, he goes on a tangent about some god mumbo-jumbo, and I actually love how hard that is to make me do. There's comments all over YouTube saying, Jesus is mad at you. He knows you shit when you drink coffee. I know you're watching a dog eating pickles, but you need to go to church. I don't even know what those say. Has anybody actually read a full one? So the fact that I can actually sit down and listen to some guy rattle off about religion and get excited means something to me. I suppose now is a good time to talk about the characters. Very good. When you watch anime for a while, you start picking up on signs. You can tell a show is about to be garbage when something is slightly off about how the main character looks. Like the hair just don't sit right on the guy's head. I don't know how to explain it. When you see a 9-year-old character with the titties of a pregnant T-Rex, that also might be a red flag. Don't quote me on that. But then you start seeing good signs. In the case of Helsing, you know the characters in an anime are good when even the female characters are good. Integra is wise and calm with a ton of wit and charm to her. Ceres, while I initially wasn't sure about her, develops into a really pleasant, supporting main character to have on screen. She's not one of those chicks that throw a haymaker at the overpowered main character. Speaking of overpowered main characters,
She has a whole nother face.
I may not have much time. I'm dying to see you.
No, you don't.
Alucard is a pleasure to have on screen anytime he's shown. If you're into edgy cool guys that never lose, like myself, then Merry Christmas. He's got that too cool for school thing going on, but also that this darkness within my heart. Why can't I find the light? Thing. I actually used to write shit like that and post it online when I was 12-ish. People would think I was deep. Anyway, I know I'm getting off track. The side characters, these guys honestly steal the show. Some of my favorite moments are owed to characters that weren't even a part of the main three. In fact, this guy was only in one episode, yet he has one of the most memorable scenes. Other memorable moments include... You mean Steve Buscemi? I said earlier that the speeches are an awesome part of the show. The dialogue is also a horrible part of the show. Some of the talking is just so redundant. There's a part with this Chris Farley where the guy goes on about how he loves war for 3 minutes straight. I get it. What the fuck? How are you still doing this? Thank God we're done. Shut the fuck up!
There's two things that make me believe in God. Sex and basketball.
Sex and basketball make you believe in God. That's
I
crazy.
don't know why basketball can't feel like that. Not to be squashed under the...
Yeah, me too, buddy. Keep it to yourself. Why? Can we get a good 3 minutes about why you love war? Or are you just an evil bad guy for absolutely no reason at all? It's not going to challenge how you look at the world. It's not going to say anything about society. It's just an excuse to see a bunch of Nazi vampires get f***ed up. Which is okay. I'm just not that crazy about how the plot itself was handled. Other than that, the show is great. While not for everybody, if I were some guy that had run out of good stuff to watch, Helsing would make my day. Hyper-violent, flamboyant, overpowered goodness. Low-key, Helsing is a classic that everyone kind of forgot about. And I was looking it up because I was confused on how it's super popular. All my anime friends had seen it when we were younger, yet no one ever brings up Helsing. And I think I figured it out. The show started in 2006. It finally ended in 2012. I always wondered why the show suddenly ended right before it actually ended when I was a kid. And it turns out that the anime wasn't even fucking finished yet. Apparently the show bounced around 3 different studios and both Funimation and Neon for the dub, which is pretty insane considering how consistent everything is. At the start, the art can be slightly wonky at times, like this bitch just spawns once the camera gets a certain distance away on the first episode, but they really iron that type of performances I'm not super excited about in the beginning, and then BAM! I didn't know I was dealing with Will Smith. I didn't know they had Adam Sandler in the studio. And that is trivia. This is my video, and here's the end. If you want mindless action with an overpowered main character and a ton of fun, Elden is a show for you. The episodes are like an hour long, so you can kick back and breeze through the 10 episodes if you don't have anything else going on. Subscribe. I make more of these. I'll probably make another one soon. And I also do stuff that's not these, which you can see on the screen. Thank you. See ya.
Dang it!
Whoa! What's wrong? Fuck, this guy's gotta be between the ages of 13 and 26. This is gonna be a gamble. What's wrong, little guy?
Well, I'm trying to watch a new Scamboli, but my internet keeps buffering.
Sounds like your internet service provider is deliberately slowing down your internet speeds. When NordVPN encrypts your traffic, it hides it so that even your ISP can't see what you're doing. If they can't see what you're doing, they can't identify your traffic for throttling or shaping. So you can sometimes actually speed up your internet by using a VPN.
Sounds like you're reading that off the website.
Go fuck yourself. A VPN is also useful for watching content that's not available in your country, like Netflix or accessing Hulu. You can bypass your school's internet restrictions so you can play games if you want, or maybe you just want to protect your internet surfing in general. And of course the best part is free shit. Because it's Nord's birthday, you can receive 1 month free with a 2-year plan and a special gift.
What kind of gift?
Huh. I don't know, it wasn't in the email, maybe. No, it really wasn't in the email they sent me. Oh, looks like you can get up to 2 years of free service time. So click my link, use my coupon code at checkout, which is Scamboli, and have a nice day. Thanks for the sponsor.
His name is Emmett, too. He was singing in the middle of the night by white. The death of my son has shown me.
Oh my goodness.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, One Piece chapter 1041 is out. We got another full chapter of teases. Kaido versus Luffy is about to begin, so let's break it all down. As always, make sure you subscribe and join our King Pirates crew because we do this every week. And if you have a good time watching this video, please drop a like for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you. To start things off, let's talk about the cover page story. We are back again with the Vinsmoke cover page story. This time around, though, was a kind of a cute update that we get. It's nothing really impactful. We see Pudding beating up Yonji and Niji while they are still in the book, which is kind of a dirty move. As it goes to explain, she's beating him up for bullying Sanji when he was a child. So it's honestly a really nice and cute gesture here from Pudding. She looks adorable as well while she's beating them up. So really my one takeaway here is that I hope that Pudding comes back to the story eventually at some point. And I actually feel like at the end of the story, there's a good chance she might actually end up with Sanji. But jumping into the chapter here, the first thing that we get to is an update on Momonosuke and Yamato. And specifically, we find out some pretty important information about Momonosuke and the dawn of the new world. Before that, though, we do get confirmation that Zunisha is here to fight for Momonosuke, and he's specifically saying that he's awaiting Momonosuke's orders, once again emphasizing that Momonosuke is kinda in control of Zunisha. And honestly, the more that I'm seeing this, the more I'm starting to believe that Momonosuke is actually an ancient weapon and that he's the commander of Zunisha. I talked about this in my most recent video about the ancient weapons. If you haven't seen that, check that out right here. But yeah, as far as Zunisha goes, I've always felt that its sheer size and destructive power is very comparable to an ancient weapon. So the fact that Momonosuke can command it just like Shirahoshi can with Sea Kings, to me that just further confirms that Momonosuke is probably an ancient weapon. And ironically, I think that's exactly what Momonosuke and Yamato end up talking about in this chapter. It starts off with Yamato specifically talking about how she read in Oden's journal that Momonosuke should be able to talk to the giant elephant and he's gonna be the one to lead the dawn of the new world. And this line specifically is very interesting because there's so many different ways you can interpret it. Personally, the theory I still believe in the most is Momonosuke is an ancient weapon, but obviously with the way Yamato is talking about things, it does seem like that Oden thought that Momonosuke might be Joy Boy. So I'm not gonna shut that idea down, it's certainly a possibility, but personally I still think that Luffy is gonna end up as Joy Boy, and the whole Joy Boy prophecy is not as related to Destiny as we might think. I've been talking about making a Joy Boy video for like a month now, but trust me, I will do it eventually. But yeah, as far as Momonosuke goes, I still think that he's one of the people that will guide the world to its dawn as an ancient weapon. And I think even if Odin thought that Momonosuke would be Joy Boy, I don't think that's for certain. Because even though the Roger Pirates found out all the information about Joy Boy and ancient history and the ancient weapons, the one thing that they seemingly don't know is who will become the future Joy Boy. And that's because Roger himself thought that Ace would end up being Joy Boy, and that's why he had a son. So I can see Odin thinking in the same capacity in that he wanted his son to be Joy Boy. So to me, this Yamato dialogue doesn't really confirm anything about Momonosuke being Joy Boy. But of course, as Momonosuke goes on to say, he's definitely a very important figure and he cannot die. Again, I think it's because he's an ancient weapon, but as of right now, we actually don't know the specifics. Because as it turns out, Odin actually ended up tearing out the most important pages. Because while Momonosuke does show that he knows that the Roger Pirates laughed once they found the One Piece, he still doesn't know the specifics of everything the Roger Pirates found out. And I think this is something we all saw coming because first off, it would be incredibly irresponsible for Odin to just leave that in his journal. And second of all, there's no way Odin would have something in the story besides the One Piece that spoils what the One Piece is. And on top of that, a lot of people actually pointed out that this might have been actually foreshadowed, because all the way back in the Odin flashback, we saw Odin hand something to Toki, which she ended up tearing apart, and that did look like a few pages that he might have torn out of his journal. So yeah, as far as Odin's journal goes, it seems like everything that was in it is pretty much everything we saw during the Odin flashback. It definitely has some additional information in there, like why Momonosuke is so spoil what the One Piece is, which means that Yamato's not gonna spoil Luffy when she joins the club. But that's add that in there to push the agenda. But yeah, to wrap things up with this Momonosuke and Yamato interaction, we actually get a really interesting scene from Momonosuke. Because once again, we see him start to struggle with this imposter syndrome that he is simply not Odin. And he's actually contemplating whether or not to open up Wano's borders. And I gotta say, this is an interesting scenario here because while I still think Wano's borders will end up opening, I can see the possibility that Momonosuke maybe just keeps it closed. Ultimately, if I had to pick, I think it is leads to Momonosuke finding bravery and leading as Shogun, but it's also very possible that maybe he ends up keeping it closed because number one, he's not ready to become the Shogun, which could lead to the possibility of him joining the Straw Hats, or maybe we go a different angle where Momonosuke learns that him being scared is actually a good quality to have that Odin did not have, because instead it offers him a different perspective that maybe Odin didn't see. So it could be possible that not opening Wano's borders is a better idea. Personally, I still don't think so, but I don't think that is impossible. So as far as Momonosuke goes, I'm really interested to see where this leads to, especially with Yamato being there as well, and she has her own issues with identity. So I think there's a lot of potential here for some serious character development for both of them. Moving on from that though, we jump to an update on Raizo versus Fukurokuju, and this time we finally see officially Raizo is the winner. He ended up outlasting Fukurokuju in that blazing fire, and honestly, it looks like Fukurokuju is dead. I know he's probably not actually dead, but in that picture, it looks like he's burnt to a crisp. But either way, shout out to Raizo. After 30 chapters, he finally won the battle for Hokage. Jinbei ends up finding him, so he'll end up getting saved and recovering. And then the next scene we jump to is Orochi and Hiyori, and we see that the fire is starting to surround them as well, and Orochi is freaking out. And the first thing I actually want to talk about here is I'm kind of surprised that Orochi is fine, because when we got the update in the last chapter, it looked like he was down on the ground and paralyzed. So honestly, I was really surprised to see him just okay here in this chapter. But that actually ends really quickly because the roof caves in and he crumbles underneath it, and he actually can't transform to save himself because Hiyori hit him with a sea stone nail while he wasn't paying attention. And then she goes on to reveal her identity in the best way possible, announcing that the song that she's been playing this whole time was her father's favorite, and her father was Kozuki Odin. And this is just a great way to tie everything together from the Odin flashback. We know that she's always wearing a mask because she's probably crying, and also not only was that Odin's favorite song, but he also said to play it during his funeral. So the fact that she's playing this song in front of Orochi as he's getting defeated, I think is very symbolic. At the same time, I don't think this is the end for Orochi. I think that giant ass fire that Kanjuro had created is coming to save him. I'm still kind of surprised that we haven't seen Denjiro yet, because I thought at this point he was already with Hiyori, but the fact that he has not shown up yet, I guess means that he's not there yet. So I'm guessing what's gonna happen next is that giant ass fire arriving and then Denjiro also arriving. He'll probably end up up saving Hiyori, but maybe it ends up costing his life as well. Because honestly, the possibility of most of the Scabbards dying is becoming a real reality, and that's because the next thing we jump to is Kizo versus CP0. And the first thing I want to do here is absolutely give Kizo his props, because I did not expect him to be able to take one of the CP0s out with him. When I first saw this fight being set up, I thought it was going to lead to either a tragic end for Kizo, or that somebody else is going to come in and help him. And it turns out it might end up being both, because he pretty much just goes on a suicide mission and takes out a CP0 member with him. So he's absolutely down for the time being while there's one more CP0 member. But as we see later on, X-Drake is getting back up, so it looks like he's going to get him to take out the other one. But before we get to see that, we get some pretty critical information from the Gorosei, because they now actually changed the mission for the CP0, and the new mission is to take out Straw Hat Luffy. And this, of course, is an absolutely absurd mission because Luffy is fighting Kaido. It's so crazy, even the CP0 are like, wait, are you serious? I'm literally gonna die? But yeah, this pretty much confirms what I thought was true, which is that the devil fruit the CP0 were talking about was Luffy's devil fruit, because they also mentioned that this is to prevent the worst case scenario, and it's something we heard through a rumor. It actually lines up with the conversation the Gorosei were having a few chapters ago. And as far as what this means for Luffy's devil fruit, I'm actually gonna make an entirely separate video on it. So I do think this means that Luffy's awakening is gonna happen soon, and it's gonna have some crazy abilities. As far as the CP0 goes, though, I don't think either of them are gonna end up reaching Luffy. The mask guy, as I mentioned, I think he's gonna get taken out by X-Drake. And then as far as the other CP0 member goes, I think the perfect opponent for him could be Brook. Brook so far hasn't had a battle yet within Onigashima, so it could be the perfect matchup for him. And if it wasn't Brook, the only other two people I can think about is number one, Kawamatsu, because he hasn't had a fight really either, or maybe Marco, because he really hasn't had his moment yet either. But either way, I don't think the CP0 are going to interfere with Luffy versus Kaido. After that, though, we get a few more updates. We see Kiku and Kinemar are still kind of struggling. I'm still holding on to the hope that by the end of this battle, there are actually some casualties, like the majority of the Scabbards, because honestly, it does feel like we are entering into the final battle of Luffy versus Kaido, and once that ends, the arc is going to come to a close. Obviously, there's some other stuff to get sorted out. I still think Vegapunk is going to show up in Wano. As far as the main battle in the Onigashima portion, I think that's coming to an end soon. And honestly, if we don't have any casualties by the end of this war, it's going to feel a little empty to me. So personally, I still think there's a good chance we might still get some casualties with the Scabbards.
So bitch ass.
We gotta wait and see. But with the next update, we see that Frankie is hitting a buzzer beater and actually ended up saving Zoro. I don't know how he ended up getting there that fast, but shout out to Frankie for saving Zoro's life, honestly. Zoro still looks like he's given the fact that he saw the Grim Reaper. He's probably on the verge of death. I'm still not really sure where Oda is gonna go with this whole Grim Reaper thing. I don't think Zoro's gonna end up dead. But can you imagine if that actually ends up happening? Like, we've been bagging on Oda this whole time about not killing off any characters, and he ends up killing Zoro in Wano. That would be absolutely insane. I don't think it's gonna happen, but it would be pretty wild if it does. So that said, though, the next update we get is kind of just seeing everybody's reactions to what Law and Kid just did. We see the fodder pirates cheering the captains on, and this time hopefully the certain Law says that he's absolutely gassed and he's done, which leads us to what seems to be the final battle of Luffy versus Kaido. These two are still going at it head to head with Advanced Conquers Hockey, and this one Kaido also realizes
Bro,
that
what the
flashback. He actually thinks back to the first time he met Big Mom on the Rocks Pirates, and I really love this little flashback for multiple reasons, because first off, we see Big Mom also saying that she's gonna be the king of the pirates, and you're seeing with her expression and the smile on her face, it looks exactly the same as Kaido did when he saved King. And it's also the same motivation and confidence that Luffy has always shown throughout the story. So it's just a really interesting perspective that these Yonko were once just young upstarts just like Luffy. The other thing I like about this little flashback is how Big Mom talks about the Rocks Pirates, where she specifically talks about Rocks as teaming up with him as opposed to joining his crew, which once again just gives us another glimpse of the Rocks Pirates and how it was really almost like a pirate crew. And overall, it just makes me even more excited for the Kaido flashback when we finally get it. With that said, though, this flashback actually turns Kaido into an emotional drunk. This time, though, Luffy's not messing around. He goes into Gear 4th in this panel that is honestly pretty scary looking. I honestly don't remember the last time that Luffy looked this scary in a panel. Essentially, he goes into Snake Man and just lays it on Kaido. And while he's doing that, he reiterates everything that Kaido has put the country of Wano through, and
tie random shit like their strength and such, this main character actually realizes that makes no fucking sense. You're not gonna be cucked every episode hoping the main character whips out his powers in front of you. You'll hide things like being a dumbass and such because that would tarnish his reputation as a leader, and that makes sense. Beside him being a chill dude, the sense of progression quickly sucks in all the world's attention. Seeing Slime Boy have the potential to absorb the powers of literally anything in the series excites the viewer. It's the same sense of satisfaction as leveling up and becoming OP in a video game. And on top of that, you can see this walking cum stain and his band of dipshits build a society from the ground up. Characters are pretty hit or miss. I mean, out of the whole cast, I only like a handful of them that feel different than the rest. First, we have the main character, who besides randomly signing contracts like a kid creating a WoW account, he actually thinks of what he can do to better himself, and I actually like that. I also really dig the ongoing humor just fight scenes and bleed, etc. And that makes it good. That is actually stupid. I regret playing that part. Keep it real. It's honestly sad you said I was going in that direction. Yeah, look, it's everyone. What is after school witchcraft? Heavy witchcraft. Anyway, back on topic. Just because an anime is conventionally pretty bad doesn't mean I can't enjoy it. So I was thinking, you and I would watch my favorite bad animated season together and talk about the mystery of the Demon King Academy.
Bro, how the fuck did that?
People that aren't nobles, demon kings, and kiosks. 2,000 years ago, the demons and humans had a big war that lasted a while. In order to stop the fighting, the demon king sacrificed himself in order to erect great walls to segregate the races to stop them from mixing and fighting. I happen to know a very great, powerful, handsome man with a very similar